OpenAI and Anthropic shared all these news that they think make them look smart, where in reality, I think it's just careless and borderline incompetent. To roll it a little bit back. So, you might have seen this story, and we're going to quickly blast through the past, so to speak. But OpenAI basically said, like, hey, we just realized that one of our models autonomously went and like hacked another company, which turned out to be Hugging Face. And then kind of like shortly after, right, I think within the day, right, whatever was this post is, okay, maybe within 5 days or so, Anthropic comes out and they're like, oh, actually, our model as well did something similar, and they also accidentally went and hacked someone. OpenAI came back and said, like, oh, actually, you know, that incident when we hacked someone, that's actually more. We have more companies hacking, being hacked by our models without us knowing what's happening. And that's essentially been the trade-off. I think I saw someone on Twitter, someone was starting to post things like, hey, like, let's start measuring and kind of like counting how many times they exchanged the type of stories like this within this exchange specifically. I think it was like 5 to 7 or something like this. Ridiculous, right? Like they keep going and trying to up each other almost like in a public space of like, who is more incompetent, which I think is the word that is more appropriate here, because they think this is like, oh my God, it's like, I call it like hold me bro moment, right? It's like we developed a model that essentially is out there doing some things. Oh my God, we're like, we don't even realize our own genius. Where in reality, I think first and foremost, we'll set aside for a second the fact that these models went and did something, which by the way was pre-scripted and was within their kind of like normal standard behavior from everything that I've read at least. But the big thing that I only saw, I think, out of all the conversations, I think only Primogen actually really brought it up in one of his videos, where it just shows them to be very incompetent. Like, you not knowing that one of your models is going out there on the internet and executing certain things, that's a massive red flag for me. And maybe I just have a different perspective from my past because I've worked in cybersecurity for like 6 years. To me, that's like standard mode of operation. You monitor the traffic that comes in and comes out of your company. And if you have certain server or wherever you place that model and execute certain things, and although by design you assume that, hey, this all should be internal, the traffic should be internal, all of a sudden if you start seeing like packets being sent back and forth externally, it should be like a red flag. It'd be like your InfoSec team should be out there like, guys, this server is not supposed to be talking to the internet, right? Like, what's happening over there? And they just go shut down within the first, hopefully, few minutes, maybe an hour, right? Whichever the sequences that they use on their InfoSec team, and they shut it down and they realize, like, hey, let's pause the experiment. Clearly something is going wrong over here. In Anthropic's case, you can give them a little bit of a credit in terms of, I think from everything that they've been saying, they're like, oh, by design, this was all supposed to be internal anyway, and that's why, because we knew it is internal, we didn't try to put anything kind of like monitors on top of it, right, in terms of the external traffic. But even then, it's like, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like, you should assume that something will happen that you cannot predict, right? The whole point of cybersecurity, and especially InfoSec, and it's maybe me, crapping a little bit over they're both InfoSec teams, but like, you should not just assume that only because this is a localized experiment, we're not going to monitor incoming external traffic. And again, maybe out of my water here, I'm not coding and not running InfoSec checks every single day, but I happen to be spoiled working with the companies that I feel like my InfoSec teams and those companies would have detected something like this, because they know to be monitoring for stuff that others might not monitor for, because that's the whole point. In information security, people will try to exploit something that someone will miss. They'll forget to change the password on the admin account on some distant server, but that server happened to have a third-party connection to another server, and that's how they're going to get in. Like, professionals out there looking for stuff like this. To me, I don't know. It just, last thing I'll say on this, I feel like both OpenAI and Anthropic just basically put a label on their back and said, like, hey, hack me, right? Because if I'm black hat out there and I see that this is how well they monitor their own infrastructure, I'm sorry, man. I'm poking around. I'm now looking for things, right? Because I bet that it's like a Swiss cheese of information security. There will be a lot of holes in that, right? That aside, besides this, the other part, and we've kind of like touched on it in the past, and I feel like that's all relevant to this story, and we're gonna talk about our third character that we had to touch in this entire story, is the fact that these Chinese models are actually catching up. And I made a video somewhat recently, right, about all the different Chinese models because I was curious. I went down kind of like this rabbit hole of learning about them and how they function. I think Kimi K3 came out, right? It's like its performance benchmarks are pretty close, because if you start looking, and again, very transparently, don't use, actually for the first time while preparing for this video, I came across this OpenRouter website, but seem to have very clean way to compare different models, right? And if you look at the Kimi versus something like Claude Fable 5, which is considered one of the highest ones, right? From the perspective of like, again, features and all of these things we'll skip, I like these visual 3 graphic charts, which essentially tell you like Kimi is not outperforming Fable 5, right? Like, but it's right there. It's right there. It's right there. It's like right behind it in many of these benchmarks between the agentic coding intelligence items. And it's close. And I think why it matters is that although it's not beating it, this is where it really starts to matter, especially in these two, right? Because this is what you're primarily doing. You're inputting the tokens, right? You output whatever the outcome comes out, whatever the research you do. The cost, right? It's like 4 to 5 times difference. So you're getting maybe 90-80% of the performance out of these models. And it's again, Kimi K3, one of the latest, comparing it to one of the latest and more powerful ones on the Anthropic. But you're getting essentially like a 75, call it, percent discount on the work and only about maybe 10 to 15 to 20% discount on the actual output. So this is a big deal for this industry, right? This is a big deal for these companies. And you see this interesting dynamic where all of a sudden, and I hate to agree, but like in this case, Mark Zuckerberg is right. We shouldn't be talking about banning these AI models because it's been a talk of the town kind of. And I've spoken in my prior video, look it up in terms of the Chinese models, about why it's not a good idea to ban them as well. Like I talk a lot about cost, but some of the other factors, second degree factors, and one of them that I'll kind of like pull into this video because I think is relevant is the fact that, OpenAI, Anthropic, right, Dario, Sam, they're not just saying those things for the sake of like showcasing their own genius. I truly believe that what they're trying to do is this thing. And kudos to Gemini because it worked way better than any other tool that I have in my tool set to try to generate this image. But essentially, I think what they're doing, you have the Sundar and Satyas of the world chilling, enjoying, Google and Microsoft, they're making a lot of money. It's all good. You have Altman and Dario essentially out here trying to pull the ladder by like showcasing, oh my god, how dangerous AI is. It's just running around there hacking everything. We should stop, we should block, we should essentially not allow anyone to go and release their model without some certification with the government. They're playing the ref. They're playing the ref to make sure others cannot do it. And those others are really right now matter because like their llama, whatever they call it lately, their models, they're not out there outperforming other businesses, so to speak, or performing on the level, at least with these companies. So I think in a big way, although Mark is talking about, these Chinese companies and kind of like protecting them against the ban, in reality, he's really thinking, I think, about himself as well in his company because he doesn't want to also be affected by those certifications and those processes because he knows who are playing the refs right now. Probably these guys as well in the back end, but through some of the other vehicles, right, and some of the other work that their companies are doing because their companies have much broader business interests and they are more involved with the administration, say, here in the United States, where these two are basically just focused on AI, and that's what they're trying to do. So to me, when I hear these stories, one, I truly believe that they make them look incompetent when it comes to them taking care of their own business and protecting their own infrastructure. But number two, and I absolutely kind of like I'll stay strong on this, it's reality. The reality of those us is really this hold me bro moment where they're just trying to showcase something that will help them build the barrier, pull the ladder, whatever you want to build them out, pick a metaphor that you enjoy, against both the Chinese companies that producing like 80% of the effect at the 20% of the value, right? And also potentially, yes, kick out folks like Zuckerberg, like stick, so to speak, a rod in the front wheel of the bike that Elon Musk is on, right? Because that's an important one as well, that they're trying to kind of like take down, which its own interesting dynamic because technically already what Elon Musk has been doing, although not directly with the models, but underperformance of the SpaceX, which your boy called it. You can check out the video, and I got some comments that, hey, I'm gonna look stupid in the hindsight. I mean, again, not yet to celebrate. A few other things need to happen for me to truly say I told you so on that one. But the reality of things is that underperformance of SpaceX and kind of like that pressure right now on the fact that Anthropic is trying to go public in the next month or so, people will be looking at SpaceX over that shoulder and saying, hey, why we should be investing with you. Granted, Anthropic does have, I think, solid foundation of actual enterprise business, and it's actually a useful enterprise tool. In my opinion, I use it every day in my work. So from that perspective, at least I think they have something going on, versus SpaceX is just, for all intents and purposes, like a pyramid scheme, allegedly. And OpenAI, obviously, they're delaying because I don't think they're not even nearly where they need to be in terms of financial performance to be profitable. So, like, for them, those avenues are slowly becoming very shaky. And coming back to the situation where you have these Chinese models entering the market, part of blocking them is also protecting their business, because they realize is that a lot of the startups out there are using these models because of how cost effective they are, and they don't want to drop the price because that's going to make their problems even worse, because they're already barely profitable at the current pricing, and they actually technically need to move to the world where they can increase the pricing so they can make up for all these losses, and they have to somehow figure out how to pay all these investors hundreds of billions of dollars that they raised. So they're trying to build this moat, pull up the ladder, whatever, right? Zuckerberg is trying to save the company because he's going through another pivot, and they don't look like they know what they're doing. SpaceX is there, like, on a trajectory, rightfully so, down. So you have this interesting situation where all these conversations about whether it's hacking models, all the negative news, all the conversations about Chinese model ban, it's all really comes back to the money. It always has been, always will be. They're all trying to do things in their own self-interest, and they're thinking they're kind of like playing a ref in a certain way. And I don't know, man. I'm ready for it to be it. I'm ready for it to end. I'm ready to stop, having to worry about how the performance and things that these companies do affects the markets, affects the policies, affects our ability to do our work, right? Like the whole conversation about like banning models, which will affect some of the startups which are building really cool tools on top of Kimi K3 or DeepSeek or some other tools, right? It's like there are interesting opportunities with these tools. They can be truly useful, right? Like genuinely, as I said, I use Claude almost every day. Genuinely saves me a ton of time on many different things. I don't use it blindly. I still check the work. I still do a lot of work myself, but like it speeds me up through things that in the past would take hours, that I have to like put in the podcast and listen to something just to engage my mind, because what I was doing was very tedious type of work, right? And it helps me blast through it. So it's like, clearly we can do more. There's clearly we can generate some new interesting projects, ideas. Like it's important, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting industry to look at. That's why I've been talking about it, and it's not the first video that I'm making about this topic. It's just what annoys me is that I'm also seeing all the bad things that annoyed me about the financial world. And if you've been on this channel, you saw my videos about the finance world and my opinions on the public markets and what are some of the shenanigans that are happening in the PE and the VC world. Like it's all showing its worst face over here. It's like this Captain America serum, right? Like it augments your best qualities to be better, so to speak, and your worst qualities become even worse because it just augments them. And that's to me what AI is right now. It's that Captain America serum for all of these industries, for all of these players, and it shows the best and the worst qualities in the brightest of the spotlights. So I hope they're done soon, in whichever way it works. I hope we kind of like cleanse it through the system and actually get to focus on actually looking at like who are the ones that are building really cool, interesting companies. One of the people who I've met personally and kind of like been following for a couple of years now, right? Like Alex Conrad, like I really love what he's doing with his Substack and kind of like him going independent and doing his own thing. One of the greatest parts about it is that he purposefully said, like, I'm so tired at my prior employer, people forcing me to talk about these companies all the time. I want to talk about these young new startups, right? And that's what he's doing in his news edition. I love reading it because of that, because like finally I get to read about some of these companies that are building interesting solutions to interesting problems, that are not here doing this pissy match around, oh, whose model hacked more companies and who's more incompetent than the other, to go and trigger some of these regulations to protect their base so that other more effective tools that are cheaper do not come into the industry and take them over, right? So I don't know, man. Just like pick your media, I guess. That's the the end message of this video. Just pick the news that you like, focus on stuff that's actually important, that actually makes this industry better, and let's all hope that all of this back and forth will soon be over, as some of these companies run out of money and investors run out of patience and do not anymore allocate the investments until they actually see the results. We'll see if this will happen, or they'll find the next sucker to fit the next year of them just burning through cash and building more useful and sometimes not very useful things. I'll see you next Saturday. Peace.